Good evening, and welcome to tonight's Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. Let me introduce some members of town government that assist this board. To my left is Simone Bogarty, Assistant Town Attorney, and to her left is Blaise Donadio, a planner in the Planning Department. You're all here tonight seeking relief from the Smithtown zoning ordinances, and it's our job to try to help you achieve the relief you are requesting whenever possible. It's up to you to provide this board with precise and accurate information so we can make a decision based on the facts presented. This board must consider the 5 area variance considerations in order to render a decision. They're listed up here for you. Number 1, whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the variance. Number 2, whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance. Number 3, whether the requested area variance is substantial. Number 4, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. And number 5, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created. Procedures for tonight's meeting. Cases will be called in the order they are advertised. When you are called, please present your certificates of postings or mailing to Mr. Donadio if you haven't done so already. Then you will go to the podium, where you'll state your name and address for the record, and then proceed to tell us why you need your variance. At the end of your presentation, if anyone in the audience would like to speak on your presentation, they will be given 1 opportunity to do so. Then the applicant will come back to the podium to answer their concerns. Once the public hearing is closed, no further information will be accepted concerning the case. There are 2 ways to find out about your case. You can call the planning office tomorrow after 12, or you can wait and be notified by mail. We do have 1 adjournment tonight, and that is case number 19060, Boulder Smithtown Properties, LLC. Anyone here for that case? That case has been adjourned to April 9th. We got them already.
All righty, the first case on the agenda, case number 19056, Michelle Garrett, 35 Florence Avenue, Smithtown. The location of the property is the northwest corner of Florence Avenue and George Street. The property is the applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum front yard setback on Elizabeth Avenue from 25 feet to 23 feet, and reduce the front yard setback on George Street from 25 feet to 24 feet for a proposed 281 square foot, 1-story addition. To reduce the minimum front yard setback from 25 feet to 0 on Elizabeth Avenue, and reduce the minimum front yard setback from 25 feet to 3 feet on George Street for an existing 6-foot PVC fence. To reduce the minimum front yard setback from 25 feet to 23 feet on Florence Avenue for an existing semi-in-ground pool.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Michelle Garrett from 35 Florence Avenue in Smithtown.
Okay.
This is my husband.
Are you going to speak, sir?
She may want me to speak.
Why don't you just
Okay.
introduce yourself so we get your name on the record?
Keith Matros,
Are,
M-A-T-R-O-S.
are you comfortable with him speaking for me? Or does it
However-
matter?
However you would like it.
Because I am.
You got roped into that.
Okay. So am I speaking now?
Yeah.
We're just seeking to build an extension. We've been through a couple revisions here. I've actually spoke with Blaise in his office about this prior to all this, and proceeding with plans and stuff like that. We did we had initial submittal that was denied. We made revisions to that. We're just looking to improve the quality of life for us. The house is extremely small, so we're looking to extend the living area. And this was pretty much the best way we could find to do it. The fence lines were already there. Those were existing fence lines. Nothing's been changed there. It was just changed from stockade to PVC. The pool's been existing for a very long time. There is a CO for that the town does have. I actually have a letter here that was provided by the town in regards to the fence and all those setbacks. And this was granted in back in June of 2002 for the fences. Basically, I guess it's just the first two items that we're looking for real approval here.
Okay?
Yeah,
That's it?
I think
Okay,
so.
thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
No? Blaze?
No, thank you. Just a quick question for the applicant. Do you by any chance have your affidavit of posting for the sign?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Sabrina?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, due to the presence of high groundwater on the property, the applicant has been notified that the submission of new test hole data within the past 6 months is required in order to complete our environmental review. The previous test hole data was completed in 2021, therefore, no decision will be made tonight.
Yeah, I called the guy to make the arrangements for him to come and do it again, so he'll be here this week,
Great,
okay?
thank you.
Okay, so once you get that data, just submit it to the town, and
Okay.
then we'll be able to make a decision on your case.
Okay, so,
Nothing will be done tonight.
okay, we don't have to do the hearing again?
No,
Okay.
no, just gotta submit the data.
So am I bringing that directly to the building department?
Bring it
You
right to
can bring
them.
right to our department.
Environmental?
Environmental
DW.
and waterways, yeah?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay,
Thank you.
that's all?
1 second.
Oh.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second?
Motion has been made, excuse me, to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
No, Tony. Yeah, and then Adrian seconds. Yeah. Yeah.
The next case on the agenda, case number 19057, Gregory and Jean Truns, White Spruce Circle, Comac. The location of the property is the north side of White Spruce Circle, 439 feet west of Arbutus Court. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum side yard setback from 16 feet to 6 feet, to reduce total side yards from 34 feet to 24 feet, for proposed 264-square-foot wood shed with attached 264-square-foot roof over carport.
Good evening.
Good evening. Yeah, we're seeking to have a
Excuse me,
shed.
Can you just
Oh,
introduce yourself?
my name's
first?
Gregory Truns. I live at 10 White Spruce Circle in Comac, New York.
Thank you.
And we're seeking to build the shed and a carport to provide more storage space. I have, I think it's not going to be undesirable in any way. I have letters of, from my next-door neighbors in favor of this, and the person across the street. It's going to have the same siding as far as its aesthetics as the rest of the house, and it's only because it's in the building envelope that we need to have a variance. If it were set back further, it would blockade get too close to the pool. My neighbor 3 doors down did a similar structure in his yard, but it was not in the building envelope.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, DEW recommends the shed with the attached carport be set back a minimum of 10 feet from the side property line, and that type 2 evergreen plantings be installed behind the shed in order to help mitigate any impacts on adjacent residences.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second?
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Okay, just one thing about moving it over 10 feet, then there'll be no access to the,
That's just a recommendation.
okay. All right, thank you. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda is case number 19058, Thomas Arcese, 9 Jackson Street, Nesconset. The location, south side of Hayes Street, 105 feet east of Jackson Street. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 25 feet to 20 feet for a proposed 2,738 square foot, two-story, single-family home with 433 square foot attached side entry garage and 144 square foot roof over porch.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. My name is Thomas Arcese, A-R-C-E-S-E, P.O. Box 844, Comac, New York, 11725. We are asking for your favorable consideration for a variance for a front porch. We feel the new home will enhance the neighborhood and will have zero detriment to any nearby properties. This cannot be achieved by any other means. We do not feel this is a substantial request. The proposed variance will not have any adverse effects to the environment, nor to the neighborhood, or any effect on the district. The difficulty of this variance was not self-created. I would just like to reiterate from last week's meeting that we are building homes for our children. We're not building to sell any of these homes. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, I'd just like to put on the record, this is the second parcel from the application we heard last meeting?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And that would, again, just for the porch, not for the whole house.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Sabrina?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, to ensure full compliance with our environmental review, DEW wishes to consider information presented by the applicant and any comments from the public before making a recommendation to the board. Therefore, no decision will be made tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nothing to be made tonight until we get the sequel from the environmental people. Okay. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Come on up, please. Good evening.
Good evening. Name is Frank Russo. I live on the adjacent property. Okay, been a resident there for over 40 years. I also have my next-door neighbor, who's also been a resident probably for, what, 44 years? All right, 45 years?
Excuse me, are you going to speak?
Yeah.
I can speak, yeah.
Then, could you?
No, he can go first.
Oh, okay, all right.
All right, the only objection that we see is that there isn't a property anywhere in the vicinity that has a 15-foot or 20-foot now, because it was 15 feet, frontage. Okay, we're all pretty set back. It's a pretty attractive cul-de-sac. All right, you know, I have pictures here, and, you know, we can see all the home layouts of exactly where they are, and 15, 20 feet off the street coming up to go into the cul-de-sac is, to us, a little bit close to the road. Okay, so that's where we stand on that.
Good evening.
I'm Barbara Karstens. I live at 21 Hay Street, and I am also right in the cul-de-sac. I've been there for a long time. And I'm just worried. It's a beautiful piece of property, and I think they want to put 2 homes on it, and I don't see why the house can't be pushed back a little bit further. It just seems like it's good. We're all set back. It's a beautiful street, and I hate to see it encroaching right near the road.
I don't have anything in front of me. How far are you set back?
Oh,
Estimate.
Frank, how far am I set back? I don't know, about 100 feet.
Sir, you have to come up.
She's probably anywhere between 60 feet to maybe 80 feet.
50 to 80?
My home, which is adjacent, is set back 160 feet, and all the other properties are set back at anywhere from, I would say, 50 to 60 feet and further back.
Okay.
Okay,
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. Is there anyone else like to be heard on this application? No? Sir, would you like to come back to answer their concerns?
I'm not quite sure as to, these were the same people that we sat in their homes for 3 hours. We demolished a home that was being dealt with drugs, setting fires. They were so appreciative and wanted the homes to be built. I don't see now why, the concern at this point in our 12th hour. We've been through a lot in the last 3 years with the property. We had to get TDR, transfer development right credits. We went through the whole process, and now we're at the end, and nobody has really voiced any concerns until today, not even last week. And this is for the home that's actually on the paper road on Jackson, not even Hayes Street. Hayes Street was last week, which would be our house, but now my son's house on the following paper road off of Richmond Place is what we are here for tonight.
All right, thank you. No. No. No.
I think she's with him.
No.
She's the
Oh,
applicant.
oh. Okay. Yes.
Thank you, I appreciate it. My name is Karen Arcese. Karen Arcese. My address is 844 Post Office Box, Comac, 11725. I would like to also say that I did also sit in their kitchen as well on 2 different occasions, and I heard mostly about, I never met this other woman. I never met the other woman with the darker hair, but I would like to say that it is a beautiful piece of property. However, it wasn't so beautiful to the neighborhood when there was a crack house on it. So we lived down the block for 23 years as well, and we were, I think, good neighbors to everybody. We kept our house beautifully. We took ownership of the property. He knocked down the house, improved the property immediately by knocking down something that was a problem for everybody who lived in that cul-de-sac. So, and excuse my nerves, because I'm upset about the comments, but I would just like to say that, yes, maybe the house is closer than they thought or not set back as far, but I would rather have a house a little bit closer to the street, a beautiful new home that family would be living there with their other part of their family behind them, rather than people who caused havoc to that area for years upon years. Thank you.
Thank you. You get one opportunity, sir. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 19059, Robert DaCosta, 3 Highgate Drive, Smithtown. The location of the property, the north side of Highgate Drive, 260 feet west of Highgate Court. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting variances to increase the maximum height of an accessory structure from 15 feet to 19 feet. Decrease the minimum distance from any lot line from 8 feet to 6 feet. To increase the square footage of a detached garage in the rear yard from 750 square feet to 969 square feet for a begun prior detached garage. Increase the maximum permitted square footage in the rear yard from 750 square feet to 1,111 square feet for a begun prior 969 square foot detached garage and existing 142 square foot shed.
I know, I'm gonna- One second, Mr. DeMarco. Excuse me. If you'd like this talk, you can go into the library and have your conversation, please. Thank you very much. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. We've submitted the affidavits of posting and mailing to Mr. Donadio. In this particular case, I'd like to give you a little history. Normally, I wouldn't waste the board's time, but in this case, I think it's important. Mr. and Mrs. DaCosta bought this house, was the ultimate result of a foreclosure. But even with the foreclosure, there were certain problems with the house. Basically, it was a hoarder house. There was junk all over the place inside the house and also in this garage. When they started to clean everything out, what happened was they saw that the garage was so deteriorated that it wasn't fixable. So Mr. DaCosta decided to rebuild the garage. Now, obviously, he should have gotten a permit to do it, but I guess the situation was such that they had all of this work to do. And by the way, I think they saved the town a big problem, because if DaCosta didn't buy it and that person who was living in the house was still living there, and that guy was a squatter, besides the person losing the property to foreclosure, there was a squatter that they had to get out. And all in all, the town might have had to come in and tear down the house, which is done many times by Smithtown when the house is so deteriorated and they can't get anybody to fix it. Be that as it may, the Costas bought the house, cleaned the property, cleaned the garage, and when they were doing that, they saw, or Mr. DaCosta did anyway, saw how deteriorated the garage was, and so he started to rebuild it. So the first variance that we're asking for is the height of the garage. Now, the property naturally slopes down. So even at 19 feet as opposed to the 15 feet requirement, you really can't see much of the garage from the street. The second problem that the Costas had was, well, where do I build this garage? Well, they built it in the same place that a garage was CO'd for years and years ago. So instead of 8 feet, they built on the footing that was 6 feet away. They did expand the garage slightly on the other side, but they maintained the side yard and rear yard that had existed for many, many, many years. The maximum square footage of the garage, 750 to 969. It's really not a significant increase. We've been before this board many times and asked for larger garages, especially in this case where the property slopes down. You can hardly see it from the street. And I forgot to mention that behind them, most of the property behind them is a sump, a Smithtown drainage basin, or drainage sump. this was such a tremendous eyesore that I guess when Mr. DeCosta came in there, he wanted to clean it up so badly that when he got to the garage, it was just such a mess that he couldn't do anything other than to basically start all over again. And he didn't even know that until he pulled all of the junk in the garage out to see, you know, how badly this situation was. So I guess what I'm trying to say is they really did a service not only to themselves in fixing up this house, but to the community. They made a hoarder house, a house that was going to fall apart, into a beautiful refurbished house. So we don't feel that it has produced an adverse effect on in the community. We feel that it conforms and fits right in. Whether we could have achieved this method by some other means, no. This is really the only place where you could put that garage, and that in fact was where the garage was for many, many years. Whether the variance is substantial, I think not in this case. It's really the right place for the garage to be. It's all the way in the back. As I said, the property slopes, so there really isn't any effect on any of the neighbors. Whether it would have an adverse effect on the environment, I don't think so. It's a little larger than the original garage, but again, it's just a garage for storage. It has no plumbing in it, and so we don't see any environmental effects. I hope the environmental department doesn't, but anyway, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, yeah, we did start to rebuild without a permit, but if you could just think about the situation he was in, it was a real mess, and the only way to take care of it was to start fixing it up right away. So we asked the board for its favorable consideration. I have Mr. and Mrs. DeCosta here if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
No. Planning?
wanted to ask Mr. Tramarko, the previous garage that was existing, was a three-car garage? Do you know what size it was, square footage-wise?
Well, it was smaller than the garage that we proposed. What I tried to explain was the rear yard and the side yard footings were at 6 feet.
Right.
And they just expanded it from, I guess, I could ask Mr. DeCosta.
I was just curious if it was like 750 square feet to begin with,
Right,
right?
yeah, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Sabrina?
Mr. Chairman, DEW recommends that type 2 evergreen plantings be installed behind the garage along the side and rear property lines in order to help mitigate any impacts on adjacent properties.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? You have a motion to close? Oh, sir, come on up. Good evening.
Good evening. Not very well at public speaking. I live right next door to Rob at 1 Highgate
Excuse
Drive.
me, can you just state your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Richard O'Connor. I live at 1 Highgate Drive, Smithtown, New York, 11787.
Thank you.
I am not aware if anybody here knows the history of that house next door to me. You can Google it. It's not pretty. And since Rob has moved in, he has done nothing but to improve that property. I have no issues. The previous garage was in fact an eyesore. I believe it was ready to come down. The original owner, I believe, is in prison, and I believe they rented to people who did not take care of that house. I was worried about it for a number of years. I'm not worried about it anymore.
Okay.
I think Rob has done a fabulous job. I think he's beautified that house next door. I don't have to look at that old garage anymore. And For me, this is not an issue whatsoever. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else in the audience like to be heard? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second?
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 19061, Mary Sue Namus, 9 Paddock Drive, Fort Salonga. The location of the property is the north side of Paddock Drive, 305 feet west of Narrow Lane. The property is zoned R43. The applicant is requesting variances to increase the maximum height from 15 feet to 17 feet, to reduce the minimum distance to a rear lot line from 10 feet to 2 feet, for an existing 480-square-foot shed, to reduce the minimum side yard setback from 24 feet to 16 feet, to reduce total side yards from 60 feet to 45 feet for an existing hot tub on paver patio.
Good evening.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Dean Kutsubis. My address is 121 Newbridge Road.
We need the applicant first.
Sure.
Hello.
Good
My
evening.
name is Mary Sue Namayas. I live at 9 Paddock Drive in Fort Salonga, New York, 11768.
Would you like this gentleman to speak on your behalf?
Yes, please.
Fine, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, come on now.
Okay. Good evening once again. I'm here this evening with my client, Mary Sue Namayas, with the owner of the property located at 9 Paddock Drive in Fort Salonga. We're seeking a variance to legalize an existing shed and an existing hot tub. I can't deny the fact that this is a self-created hardship, as this shed was recently constructed, and we are here asking for forgiveness on this structure that was built. My client did receive a notice of violation for this and subsequently filed an application with architect's plans, and that's why we're here tonight requesting this variance. The variances for the shed are as follows. We're asking for a height from 15 feet, which is code, to 17 feet. That's only really a 2-foot difference. We're asking for a setback variance from any lot line from 10 feet to 2 feet, which is 2.2, and that's along the along the west property line. And I also want to emphasize that the 2.2 setback, that's our most substantial variance. That's the one, we do have a letter of no objection from the neighbor on that side, which we'll submit. And along the rear, it has got a setback of 7.5 feet instead of the required 10. So the rear setback that we're asking for is really only 2.5 feet different from what code allows. The shed was constructed for extra storage space for the family. They recently purchased a new Mercedes, which they now keep in the garage, which is attached to the house. Now, everything that used to be in the garage is now located and stored in the shed. They do own 3 quads, which they keep in the shed, in addition to tools, pool equipment, outdoor storage, outdoor furniture storage, and other household storage. This garage also, or this shed that we're asking permission for, does have a loft storage as well, but it doesn't have any interior stairs, just a ladder to get up to the loft area. The structure itself is complete, but it does not, at this point, it does not have any roof or siding. It's just got plastic tarping on it. So provided this board grants this variance, they will subsequently obtain the permit and continue the construction to finish the roof and siding. The variances for the hot tub, in my opinion, are not substantial at all. We're asking for a variance for a side yard of 16 feet instead of the required 24 feet, a total side yard of 45 feet instead of 60 feet, and to allow this accessory structure in the side yard. The hot tub is essentially a 7x7 hot tub. It's on the patio adjacent to the pool area. It's screened with, there's a row of evergreen trees which provides screening for the hot tub. And I don't feel there's any adverse effect to any neighbor regarding the hot tub. We have, I do want to submit some photos of the shed that, you know, as how it sits today. And then the photos of the shed will show that there are trees around it which screen it from to any adjoining properties. And we also have letters of consent. We have some letters of support from the neighbors which we'd like to submit. We're going to submit that. That concludes my presentation. If there's any question for myself or my client, we'll gladly do our best to answer.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. Sure. The back, there was a dormer put on this in the back, right?
Yes, there's a dormer.
And it looks like the drawing indicates 2 windows?
Yes.
Isn't it more than that? Isn't it 4?
Yeah, there's 2 windows in the back of the dormer.
Is there 4? Or just 2?
Oh, okay.
There's 3.
Okay. All right, they say there's 3. I do see the architect's plans show 2.
I know.
I did not get from the back of the shed to take any pictures, so any pictures that I have are really from the grass area.
What's the height of the first floor and the second floor?
Okay, so the first floor has a 8-foot ceiling, and the second floor has, the highest point in the middle is 6 foot, is 6'9", and then it slopes down from there.
One of your neighbors submitted photographs, and you could see construction workers standing with plenty of headroom on the second floor.
I mean,
Yeah, unless they're 4 feet tall, it's a lot higher than 6'9".
no, we're saying that the second floor, according to the architect's plans, they are 6'9", so anybody could, you know, most people could stand in a 6'9" ceiling height.
Yeah, but it looks like there's about 3 feet above their head.
All right, you know, I don't know if we're allowed to, can we review those pictures? See-
Sure,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
part of the
okay,
record now,
yeah.
so you can feel free to. Yeah, do you have them up there? They'll be on the board right there,
They're right up there, see, on the screen?
the next one.
Yeah, but that, okay. So, yeah, it appears that there might be a gap between the ceiling joists and the ridge height. But according to these plans, which were drawn up by an architect, they're showing a total, of an overall ridge height of 17 feet total, and then first floor height of 8 feet and a second floor height of 6 foot 9 inches. So,
Yeah, I understand what you're reading, and, no
Yeah.
disrespect,
yeah,
but it also shows 2 windows, and you have more than that.
okay. So, yeah,
Yeah, there's 3 windows.
okay. The,
So, I guess my question is, how accurate are those
Okay.
architectural plans?
okay, so I guess as they shoot, there might be, maybe it was designed with 2 windows and they put 3. I can't really speak to what, why the plan is different from this, but, if the windows, I don't think, I'm not sure if I'm not, I could understand that there may be concern for the windows, and, and that's something I did discuss with my client. The windows are not, other than just to allow some light into that space, if they're, if they do create any sort of, let's say, privacy concerns from the neighbors, my client is definitely willing to remove the windows if that's what will, make this project a little bit more desirable to, to the neighbors or to this board.
Yeah, I mean, I was just concerned why the windows face your neighbor's property and not yours, if you're just
Okay.
trying to get light inside.
Yeah, let me clarify on this design and why they chose this particular layout, and I did discuss this with them. They wanted that angled roof facing their yard because the initial intention was to put solar panels on the southern exposure. So that's why they wanted the steeper angle facing south, so that way they can get solar panels onto that roof.
And you stayed there, no staircase, there's no staircase in there?
There's no staircase, it's just a ladder to get up to the loft area. So, as I stated, I feel that my clients would not be opposed to removing those windows if those windows are what, if the neighbor has any concern of any windows in that space.
Is there any heat? Water?
When I was there,
Electricity?
there was no heat when I was there. I believe there's electric.
Let's talk about when it's finished.
Temporary lighting.
Okay.
When it's finished, is it gonna have heat? Is it gonna have water? Is it gonna have electricity?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
My name's Anthony Parinello. I live at 9 Paddock Drive with Sue. So the shed was built, there was an existing shed there that was dilapidated.
Right.
So we took it down and we decided we're gonna build a bigger structure. The windows in the back, I didn't even want them. My wife wanted them because she thought it would look nicer for the neighbors. So we put them in. I have no problem taking them out. There will be a slop sink. The plan is to put a slop sink in the shed. There's no heat. There's nothing else, just be a water line with a drain. We put a drain in for the rainwater and for the slop sink to go out. That's a problem. There'll be no slop sink. It doesn't really matter. As far as the shed itself, it's gonna be a black roof with a dark siding, hoping it would blend into the trees and the shrubbery back there. And that's really it. I mean, it's just a shed for storage.
Is it 17 feet, though? I mean, I still have...
When I go up in the shed, because I have a lot of stuff that you can't even look at the windows because stuff is packed up against that wall. It's like this much high from my head. I can stand up there, yes, but it's not
It's not 4 feet, though.
on the, where it slopes down, that portion there is about 4 feet, I would say, where the windows are. Then it slopes up to about, I would say, a little over 6 feet.
All right. Anyone else have any questions?
No, thank you.
Planning?
Just to touch on a couple of things, Mr. Chairman. First, I think this was overlooked when the denial letter was being done and when we did the ad. The existence of the second floor actually adds square footage to the total square footage of the shed. So the shed isn't 480 square feet, it's 480 square feet for the first floor plus whatever the second floor is. And that would have to be calculated by the architect. Regarding the architect, in looking at these photos, it's obvious that the plans that were submitted with the application do not match what has been constructed on the site. As everybody is aware, The neighbor to the north submitted a statement along with these photographs, gravely concerned about the height of the structure, the impact, the visual impact of the structure, the potential impact for loss of privacy because of the three-window dormer on the second floor. In looking at this, this is more like a two-story garage than it is a shed. Most people think of a Home Depot shed. It's, 10 by 12 or 12 by 20, and it's 12 feet tall. This is much more substantial than that, and the fact that it's only set back 2 feet from the rear lot line, which is an 80% reduction of what's required, that is a substantial visual impact.
We're not going to be able to vote on this until you come back and give us all the correct information that we need. It's not as Mr. Donadio said, it's not 480 square feet. It's 480 plus. What the plus is, we don't know. You're going to have to calculate that.
Okay.
Also, if I'm going to adjourn this, do you want to check with your architect to make sure that all these plans are precise and accurate before you come back?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree that the plans should be verified. Maybe we'll do a walkthrough with the architect. If listening to this board tonight, I feel that, I'll discuss it with them. Maybe the windows can come off totally. I feel that that would possibly help this case. And maybe we'll find a different solution for lighting. Maybe they could put a window on the gable end. It doesn't need a ton of lighting, natural light on that second floor.
Throw a skylight.
I would also like to, just note that there was a slight error in what Mr. Donadio stated. The rear yard setback is 7.5 feet. So we're not, that setback, we're asking for really only a 2.5 foot relief on. It's the side yard setback, which is the 2 foot setback.
That's a rear yard setback as well. That corner is the rear yard of their property. That 2 foot setback is a rear yard setback.
Okay. But what I'm trying to say, it's still 7.5 feet away from the property line, the northerly property line, of this yard. So we'll gladly, I appreciate this board's, intention to allow us to come back. We'll revise the plans, we'll get better information, we'll verify the plans, and,
Thank you. Now, how long do you think you're going to need? The next meeting, I doubt you're going to have it. It's February 13th. I don't think you're going to have everything ready by then. The meeting after that is February 27th, and then we go into March 12th.
yeah, we would like to ask for March 12th.
March 12th? Okay. So this case will be adjourned to March 12th.
They may need another variance, too, for the,
There will be more variances.
there're going to be more variances. You're going to have to re-advertise.
I think they'll have time.
Yes.
They'll have time.
Yeah?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll have the whole month of February.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you all.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
I'm sorry. If you'd like to come up, you're going, you're going to have to come back again, but, all right. Certainly.
So I'm actually the one that,
Introduce yourself.
I'm Nicole Fraccovieri. I own the property at 4 Narrow Lane.
Could you spell your last name?
Sure, Fracklvieri. You guys actually mentioned a lot of my concerns. My property sits like this to theirs, and the windows overlook my backyard. My concern really is for the privacy and the value of my property. I mean, people buy acres of property in Fort Salonga for the privacy. All the evergreen trees that you saw planted, I planted all of those trees probably about 3 years ago to gain privacy, and now this structure soars above those trees. I've tried to talk to my neighbor a few times, mentioned maybe if we can take it down to one level, 10 feet, which is allowed within the 10-foot. It wouldn't be such an eyesore for me, and I wouldn't feel like, anyone could just look over into my yard. I mentioned skylights instead of windows. I don't know why there's a rear dormer needed on what's supposed to be a shed. And my other concern is if this property is ever transferred to somebody else, it would be very simple for somebody to put a business or an apartment in there. So those are really what my concerns are. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. You want to answer any of their concerns?
Well, as stated, we're going to revisit this. We're going to, come back with new architect's plans. I understand some of the neighbors' concerns, and we're going to do our best to try to mitigate it and keep it to bare minimum variances required, and maybe we'll come to some sort of agreement or some sort of compromise as to what can be done to legalize what was built.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So case 19061 has been adjourned to March 12th. Good night.
The next case on the agenda is case number 19062, George and Diane Forster, 19 Verbena Drive, Comac. The location of the property is the north side of Verbena Drive, 499 feet west of Astor Court. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to increase the maximum permitted paved surface in the required front yard from 25% to 32% for an existing asphalt driveway.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm George Forster. I live at 19 Verbena Drive, Comac, New York.
Would you like this gentleman to speak on your behalf?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Carmine Grasso from Cataldo Grasso Architects, office at 14 Carl Avenue in Smithtown. I submitted the affidavits of posting and mailing to Mr. Donadio earlier this afternoon. I represent the Forsters in their request for a variance to increase the area of paving in their front yard from 25% to 32% for an existing driveway. My client has an application into the building department right now to construct a new detached garage in the rear yard. And when we were submitting this application, we obviously submitted the survey of the property, and that's when we found out that the front yard paving was above the minimum, the required 25%, or maximum of 25%. So the garage that's being constructed in the rear meets all of the zoning ordinances. It's just the existing driveway that we are looking to rectify. If you look at the aerial photos of the area, there is actually quite a few houses in the neighborhood that have wider driveways. I don't know what the percentages are. They're assuming they're probably all in conformance. But the wider driveway like my client has is something that is in character with the neighborhood. So if you go to the area variance considerations, whether there would be an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties, we don't feel there would be. There's no stormwater runoff from this driveway going on to adjacent properties. Whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some other method. No, the paving is actually necessary because that allows my client to get to the side of the house to go to the new garage that he's proposing. Whether the requested area variance is substantial, we don't feel it is. It's only a 7% increase from the maximum paving allowed. Number 4 is whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood. No, again, there is no increase in sanitary flow or energy use for the additional paving. And finally, whether the difficulty was self-created, we don't feel that it was. The applicant wouldn't be able to access his garage in the rear if he did not have this additional paving on the driveway. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. If anyone has anything to say.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
I do.
Go right ahead.
What's the actual change in paid square foot area?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
What's the actual change? Does the mic not work? Right, I'm sorry. What is the actual change in paved square foot area when you go from the 25% to the 32?
You know, that is a good question. I
thought
did
so,
not
too.
actually calculate, calculate the area. When we submitted the application, the building department came back and just said it was it went from 25% to 32. So I don't have the actual number of what the square footage is.
All right, and there's no garage on site now until this is put in?
No, there's not.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anyone else have any questions?
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you, but just to answer our new board member's question, the front yard width of this property is 75 feet. I believe it's an R10 zoning. The required front yard setback is 40 feet. So 75 feet in width by 40 feet in depth is 3,000 square feet. 25% of that would be 750 square feet. 33, is it 33 or 32?
32.
32% of that would be 960 square feet.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Donadio.
You are welcome.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second?
Motion, excuse me. Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Yes, you too.
The next case on the agenda is case number 19063, Corey Crosilla, 35 Bouse Road, Nesconset. The location of the property is the east side of Bouse Road, 515 feet south of Smithtown Boulevard. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the distance from any rear lot line from 6 feet to 3 feet for an existing 24-foot above-ground swimming pool.
Good evening.
Good evening. Shorter than I thought. So my name is Corey Corsilla. I'm at 35 Bouse Road in Nesconset. And I have an above-ground pool, which I guess just a bit of background. I bought the house with my mother in 2020, at the very end of 2020. The homeowners did a lot of work to the home, the homeowners that we bought the home from, and they had a number of variances and permits that they, of course, they provided us with, and they had obtained a permit for an above-ground pool years back. The pool wasn't there when we purchased the house, but they said if you ever want to put in a pool, you have a permit. So because I figured that process would be cumbersome and we had the permit, so I figured let's get the pool. So we got the pool. To be honest, my mom is the only one who uses it. She's 71 and she has arthritis, so she goes in the pool in the summer to exercise. Somebody complained about the pool, saying that it's too close to the fence. So it is too close to the fence. But our backyard is quite shallow, and there's not really much room for us to move it the other way either. The pool company, in my opinion, should have known that it was too close to the fence. I don't know anything about the codes or pool companies, but the pool company who installed it is out of business. So if I were to have to move this pool, I would have to just take it down. I can't afford to move the pool. I'm a single mom. I have 2 kids. I have 2 jobs. I can't afford to move it. I would just have to take it down. When the inspector came, he asked that we change the direction in which the gate opened, so we did that. He asked us to spring load the gate, so we did that. We had to put alarms on 3 doors that go out to the backyard. I had to replace a section of fence, which is really in the front of the yard, but you can access the backyard, so I replaced the fence. So at this point, we have been in compliance with everything that was asked for us. I understand that the pool is too close, but again, moving it would be such an expense, and I don't really see how moving the pool 3 feet would have an astronomical effect on any of our neighbors. I don't really see much of a difference there. So we are asking for the variance to leave the pool where it is. And I guess that's it, unless anyone has any questions.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anyone on the board have any questions?
No, thank you.
Planning?
Thank you.
No?
Thank you.
Nothing? Is there anyone in the audience that could be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second?
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
The next case on the agenda, case number 19064, James Snyder, 17 Fordham Drive, Smithtown. The location of the property is the northwest corner of Fordham Drive and Columbia Court. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum front yard setback on Columbia Court from 40 feet to 3 feet for a proposed 120-square-foot wood shed, to reduce the distance from lot line on Columbia Court from 10 feet to 0 for a proposed 6-foot PVC fence.
Good evening.
Christina Bravin, Morano Expediting, 2938 Hempstead Turnpike, Levittown, New York. Agent for the applicant.
Just one second. Everything all right with the power of attorney?
Yeah, we have it.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Go right ahead.
Okay, so we are requesting permission to construct a 10 by 12 shed in the front yard, holding a front yard setback of 3 feet, and a proposed 6-foot PVC fence holding a 0-foot front yard setback. So this property has a small bungalow-style home on it. It's 3 small, emphasize small, bedrooms, 1 bath, tiny basement, and barely accessible attic space. There is no garage. They currently have a very dilapidated shed that needs to be replaced. So they're proposing a 10-foot by 12-foot shed just to keep their outdoor items, lawnmower, furniture, decorations, gardening equipment, etc. So the plan is to keep it what appears to be that front yard area, but it is in the back side of the house. The 6-foot fence is proposed on the easterly property line, and that'll enclose the rear yard. It'll also extend an additional 2 to 3 sections closer to the driveway alongside Columbia Court. And although the fencing is proposed at 0-foot setback, it's visually 10 feet from the road, so there's plenty of space from where the cars are actually driving. I don't know if you can flip to the aerial, if you have that in your packet, but you'll notice that fence line is right on that property line, and there's 10 feet of grass area that separates, so provides plenty of space. There's no impact to the sight line. There's also a stop sign at that corner there, and again, it's set back so far that the proposed fencing that there's plenty of sight line. It would not impact anyone on the quarter. Just a little history on this house. When they purchased it in 2006, Columbia Court was actually a paper road, which they were unaware of, but it was completely screened. It was all trees, bushes, evergreens, so it looked like just an empty lot, and it provided a ton of privacy and screening. And 6 years later, 2012, a builder came and applied, had that all taken out, made the road, and built those 2 houses in the court. So he became a corner property. So no screening, no privacy. And so that's the reason for the fencing and the location of the shed. That's really the only place that they can put it is at the edge of the driveway. So it's almost like a small detached garage, but it's only 10 by 12.
All right, thank you.
Okay? You're welcome.
Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
Just one, just out of curiosity. In looking at the aerial, I noticed that the existing shed is in the southwest corner, and the northwest corner, there's just grass. Any reason why the applicant isn't proposing to put the shed in either of those two locations?
So they would like to sort of maintain a rear yard without anything in it. It's so small, it's only maybe 60 feet in that back yard. They have the pool. It really doesn't provide much area, and it'll be great if it could be at the edge of the driveway so that they can keep the snow equipment or gardening equipment. Just when they pull up in the driveway, if they have to store anything in there, it would just make it easier. So again, acting as almost a garage that they don't have.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda is case number 19065, Ralph Drews, 87 Croft Lane, Smithtown. The location of the property is the east side of Croft Lane, 928 feet north of Saxon Court. The property is zoned R43. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum side yard setback from 24 feet to 2 feet, to reduce the total side yards from 60 feet to 12 feet for an existing 120-square-foot shed.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hope you're all doing well tonight. My name is Ralph Drews. I am the owner of the subject property at 87 Croft Lane in Smithtown. I'm here tonight to request relief for the two variances Mr. Donato just briefed you on. The shed was purchased from Home Depot. I was unaware that, I was actually misinformed that sheds under 150 square feet required a permit, and once I was aware of that, I went to the town and applied for the permit, and that's when I got the denial letter that I needed the variances. So the location, it's not changing anything in the character of the neighborhood. It's set off on the side. It's a heavily wooded area. It's on the high side of the property. The property sloped down. If anything, it enhances the property. It matches the siding, and there's photos of that on the roof of the shed. It's right next to the pool equipment. The purpose of it is just to store backyard furniture and pool floats and things of that nature. There's no other way or location to put the shed because of, if I put it in the required rear yard, it will encroach on wetlands that were delineated when I originally purchased the property. And due to the fact that the property is already constructed on a frontage variance in the R43 zone, which is 150 feet, all the lots in this subdivision are 100-foot wide, and all of the neighbors all have similar sheds in similar locations. And behind the shed where it's constructed is sheds by my neighbor, and you can see on the other side there's also sheds. The shed is not substantial. It's under 150 square foot. It's actually 120 square foot. There's no adverse impact on the environment. It sets in nicely right around all the foliage and up against near the fences that are located. It's, like I said, it's adjacent to the pool. There's no other place to locate it. And that's it.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
One question, if I may, how tall is the shed?
It's under 10 feet.
Okay.
So it fits all of the building code requirements, just not the zoning.
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to,
I have one comment.
oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Mr. Chairman, the property is located within the New York State DEC Recreational River Corridor. DEW recommends the applicant contact DEC to determine if you will need any permits for this.
Okay, well, I do have from the surveys that shows that where the wetlands were delineated in the past, so we're outside of that zone.
We just want you to be aware that you should contact DEC just to make sure that you're in compliance with them.
Okay.
All right. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second?
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
The next case on the agenda is case number 19066. Excuse me. Nicholas Monteleone, 8 Shaker Ridge Lane, Comac. The location of the property is the southwest corner of Shaker Ridge Lane and Harvest Lane. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback on Harvest Lane from 40 feet to 26 feet for a proposed natural gas generator.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Natividad Monteleone, live at 8 Shaker Ridge Lane, Comac.
Would you like this gentleman to speak on your
Yes.
behalf?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Thank you. You can sit down if you want.
Okay, well, you have to
I'm sorry, what was your first name? All right, thank you.
Good evening once again, members of the board. My name is Dean Kutsubis. My address is 121 Newbridge Road, Hicksville, New York, 11801. I'm here this evening with Mr. and Mrs. Monteleone, the owners of the property located at 8 Shaker Ridge Lane in Comac. We're seeking a variance for the installation of a proposed generator. They have decided to invest in a generator not just as a luxury, but more so and also as a necessity, as there have been at least 5 power outages in the past year. Most of them are an hour or so, but sometimes it can be longer. Mrs. Monteleone does have a partial work from home schedule, and Mr. Monteleone uses a CPAP machine, thus requiring the need for constant and reliable electrical service. In addition to these reasons, the most important reason why they would require a generator is their vacation schedule from his business and his time off from his business is the first 3 weeks of January in which they travel. So having the generator in January, which is really rather cold month, as we all know, would give them peace of mind knowing that that their house that their heat would stay on, the pipes won't freeze, and they'll have the cameras, the security cameras will be working, and while they leave the house unattended. So that's important to them to have the generator, not just for the year-round convenience and everything, but also while they go away to know that the generator, in case there's a power outage, the generator kicks on and heat and everything would work. The generator will have a front yard setback of 26 feet where the requirement is 40 feet. This location was chosen by my client and the generator company for several reasons. Number one, it's in very close vicinity to the gas and electric utilities that will have to be connected to this generator. It'll be far enough away from any windows or vents located on the house. It'll be located in an area which will provide the maximum use of their rear yard. So it's not smack in the middle, it's not in the middle of their yard, it's not in the middle of like where their walkway would be. It is in an out-of-the-way location which they chose to install this. It will be located behind an existing fence and will not be visible from the street or from the neighboring property. So the fence is already there, And to further show you, I do have a picture. I have some pictures for that which I submitted already from the inside, but now I want to submit, I did not submit, I have a picture what it looks like from the outside, so it will be behind this fence. And those trees are there. On the one picture on this page that you have, I did highlight the space which was allocated where they're going to propose it. So it's going to be pretty close to the fence. There's there's going to be a gap between the fence and the generator, whatever the minimum required is. Believe it's like 18 inches, and then the generator will be there. So that therefore won't be visible for any, anybody walking down the sidewalk or even neighbors who are in that vicinity. Let's see here. And if this were to be set back 40 feet as required without seeking a variance, it would be visible from the street as the grade slopes upward, as you get closer to the house. So that way, there is an incline, it goes upward, and that way, if you were to be walking down the sidewalk or even from one of the neighboring properties, having it set back would make it a little bit more visible than it would be where we chose, right behind the fence. The generator runs at approximately 67 decibels when it runs at full capacity, and to put this into perspective, this would be quieter than a commercial lawnmower. So when landscapers come, this generator runs a lot quieter than a commercial lawnmower, which runs at about 100 decibels. A chainsaw is even louder at 109. So it's also much quieter than a chainsaw. And in addition, this runs much quieter than gasoline-fired portable generators, which, many residents use the gas-powered ones when they, in the event of a long-term power outage. So I did some research. A typical 5,000-watt gasoline generator runs at about 74 decibels. This is actually quiet. Being in an insulated enclosure, it runs quieter than any gas-powered generator. I would also like to point out that one of my client's neighbors has a generator. This is the neighbor located at 96 Harvest, which is like diagonally across, and which is fully visible from the street and has really no, he indicated to me, really doesn't have any effect to any property or to the neighborhood. We feel this variance is not substantial. Tremendous effort was made to keep it away from the house, away from adjoining properties. It won't be visible and has no adverse effect to any neighbors. I would kindly request this board's approval.
Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions?
No,
Just one
thank you.
question for Blaze. If this were installed 10 feet to the south where the bush is, would that be too close to the house that it wouldn't be permitted?
Can you say that again?
Sure. If it were moved 10 feet to the south, there's a little bush, if you have the photographs there, right by a latticed fence area. If this were moved 10 feet to the south, would that be too close to the house to be permitted?
I'm not an expert on this, but I believe that any generator, any natural gas or diesel-powered generator has to be set back at least 5 feet from a dwelling.
Thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Don's game tonight.
The next case on the agenda, case number 19067, FB4 Realty LLC and GMF LLC, 200 Town Line Road, Kings Park. The location of the property is the east side of Town Line Road, 2,220 feet south of Old Northport Road. The property is zoned LI. The applicant is requesting a modification of a special exception application to permit a trucking station and outdoor storage in the LI zoning district.
Good evening.
Good evening. Vincent DeCanio, 117 Terry Road, Smithtown, New York. It's good to be back before the board. Last on the agenda. As Mr. Donadio said, this was approved, and most of the members of the board are familiar, in 2018, prior to the COVID-19 situation and the pandemic. And at that time, it was for new cars, as well as storage of new cars, as well as repossessed or leased vehicles. For the approximately 2 years from the approval to the pandemic, we abided by the special exception that was approved by this board. However, as Mr. Donadio stated, the world changed with the pandemic, and the tenant did not have any vehicles to store there, or at a minimum, and had a hardship and stopped paying their rent. We're requesting tonight a modification that still is a permitted use in LI zoning. The structures that are on the property, which is an office building, because it has to have outside storage, has to be accessible to a building, and the garage still remain. And we've changed the uses, however, to not just new car vehicles, although that's part of the application, to be outside storage as well as other vehicles. And I have 2 packets that I'd like to submit. That would tie together with the site plan. So the photographs actually conform to the map, and it would explain or make it more clearly to which, although the use of the property is still outside storage, what we've broken it down into 4 components. The green area is going to remain. That was approved. You can hardly see it from the road. It's got beautiful evergreens. Although, and the green area, or the area behind it, is where the cars are stored, which is area number 2. And although not required, we have a 6-foot stockade fence, so you cannot even see, further not can see the storage from the roadway. Item number 3 continues to be new automobiles or repos or leased vehicles. They're Jaguar and Land Rovers, and that's indicated on item number 3. Item number 2, continue to be vehicles, but they're not new vehicles, because the primary user are a telecommunication company that also has outside storage. So to accommodate the outside storage, we've located at the rear of the property, that's number 1. It's into the large embankment. It's not seen whatsoever from the street. And as I said, every one of the uses are permitted, so we're asking for a modification for what the board previously approved to allow this to take place. It's probably the neatest piece of property on Town Line Road. I think we actually set as a good example for the town that why other uses should possibly use this as a model, and we hope that the board would consider approving this modification.
You did an excellent job cleaning up that site.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that.
Does anyone on the board have any questions?
I do. Thank you, Mr. DeCanio. I think you did a really nice job of explaining it so that it's understandable for us. Question I would have is, on this site, you have what would essentially be a tenant that would be using it?
Yes.
A telecommunications company?
Yes.
And one of the problems that I think the town of Smithtown has had in the past, not with your application, but is the proliferation of these contracted storage yards in that area. In the interest of, obviously I like personally the application, it looks fine to me. But 20 years down the road, sell the property, somebody else gets it, here's the approval you've got, outdoor storage approved for anything. Not sure how it would work, but would you be willing to have us make an approval with a condition, say that for the existing tenant, so that if you change tenants, we would, have to come back, and so that you can't wind up saying, all right, we're going to sell the property, now I sell it to somebody who wants to just rent it out to contractors, and now we've got a huge contracted storage yard that's as of right.
Well, there's no guarantee that that tenant will remain, obviously. And we'd like to be able to use the property with the conditions and within the zoning without asking for any further modification. But I think to be able to come back to the board is a very good likelihood that in 3 years that possibly there won't be this tenant.
I understand that, but you understand my point of view that the town has this issue that to give a blanket, it's basically not a use variance, but it's basically a significant variance that allows you leeway that we're trying to avoid. Even though it's specific for this use, it looks good, but obviously cross it over to a different tenant and now all of a sudden it's not so good.
But a different tenant, sir, that would still conform to the zoning, such as outside storage, similar to the conditions that the board has already somewhat.
Yes, but so storing reels and shipping containers is different than tree limbs and grass
Yes,
clippings.
most definitely.
Most
definitely.
So that's the issue. And I mean, obviously, we'll discuss it. Try and figure out a way that this can work for you.
I think if it was worded, and I think it's an excellent point you're bringing out, that if it was a use that was consistent with the outside storage of cars, et cetera, telecommunications, even the storage containers right now, currently, some of them are covered with blue tarps. We've agreed to put them all inside containers, not to exceed 14 feet. So in every manner, we've tried to conform totally within the zoning.
Yes, and
But your point's well taken.
Get that, and I appreciate it, but obviously, there's not always good actors.
That's very true. I think it's 3 years, but renewable, they have the option to renew it. And let's bear in mind, we also still have, as I pointed out in the area number 3, we do have new car vehicle. So we're not really getting away from the original intent of the outside storage. But I do respect with the, with you.
Council and see if there's a way we can figure out a craftily way to word it so that you get what you want and the town has some
Most
protection.
definitely, we don't want what's there other than our use. I mean, they have trucks going in and out. We know that this even permitted with a variance before any of us to be heavy-duty trucking. And it's none of that right now, as the board has complimented me on. And hopefully, the wording is correct, yes.
Two other questions. Is there only one option to renew, or do they have more than that?
I don't know, I really don't know if they have more than that, but I believe they're going to stay there. They're a very large company, and even the outside storage that they're doing, millions of dollars of equipment. The work is not being done in New York, so there aren't trucks going in and out. They're not doing Cablevision nor Verizon. They're out of state. When they leave, they bring it to New Jersey and most of the Eastern Seaboard. So I would expect that we'd continue to conform with the zoning.
Will this tenant have the right to sublet?
No sublet, no.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? Planning?
So just to clarify, because Tony brought it up, and I think it was a good point about what if the property ownership changes and somebody else comes in with a different use. So the board knows when you previously approved this, the original application, it was approved as a trucking station with accessory outdoor storage for automobiles for car dealerships. That was the original approval. This approval is modifying that. They still have an outdoor storage area for automobiles. That is a component of this application. They also have two other components. One is an outdoor storage area for trailers and the related equipment and materials. And the second is basically a trucking station where the vans and the small commercial trucks are being parked. If the board chooses to approve this application, that would be the use that's approved for the site. If this changes in any way from the existing use that you see now to some other kind of outdoor storage of some other kind of material, or trucks, or landscape debris, or whatever, they would have to come back to the board. So it's kind of a built-in condition of approval, if you will, because they can't just do what they want to do simply because you approve it. I just wanted to clarify that. The other thing is, I just wanted to ask a couple of questions. Mr. DeCanio, I'm sure, can answer them. They were just questions that came up in general discussion, planning. We were talking about the application, because we're looking at this site as a whole for the area, Old Northport Road, Town Line Road. You know that there's a lot of activity going on down there lately with people trying to legalize what they have, and they're trying to comply to some extent. So some of the things that come up, number one, it's a fairly large site. It's 14, 15 acres. It has three individualized components to the use of the property. Is there sufficient facilities on site for restrooms more than just one location in that small building?
Yes, the restroom that exists is for, there are 8 to 10 employees at the most at that 14-acre site. Not all of them are office workers. And within the office area, we've met health department approval. The board has that approval, and it is sufficient for the amount of employees that currently exist there. The garage doesn't have any personnel at all. It's still used for car washing or prep or minor maintenance of the vehicles. So the answer to your question was yes. And I like your summary, and I think it answered some of the board's question. We would be willing to come back if it were a change of that use. And that's a concern of ours also. We'd love to see this property act as a model for other uses on Town Line Road. So I hope that answered your question.
That does answer that question. Another question I had, and I think you just answered it by way of default. The use of the existing office/garage building
Yes.
has not changed. That's still being used as an office for, I'm assuming now at this point, the telecommunication company, and the garage is still being used for the prep or cleanup of the stored vehicles.
100%, yes. And as well in the garage, as I said, for any minor maintenance takes place in the garage. So the office is only, it's not subletted, it is only for the use for the telecommunication company. They cannot sublet it. So, and I think you've summed up possibly if this were sold or the tenant did not renew its lease or its option, and if it was anything that deviated from the approval, we would come back for another modification if necessary in the future.
Two quick questions. One regarding the buffer to the south.
Yes?
I see that on the site plan, it is denoted as the 100-foot required buffer. How do you plan on delineating the buffer from the rest of the site? Fence, bollards?
We figured, not bollards, we put concrete barriers, neat ones, and we've spread them out. And we indicated on the plan, that's at the line of the buffer zone to the south. And we know the buffer zone to the south is the fiber optics of LIPA and PSEG, now subsequent owners. And we've put the concrete there all along to preserve because it was violated. Some cars from the tenants were parking in it. So we plan on putting these concrete structures approximately 7 feet apart, and to allow that when we do any plowing, which is also a big part shown on this plan with the aisles, that we could push the snow into that area. But in no way will there be any vehicular or any other violation of the buffer area.
Okay.
So we have the green buffer area, as we all know, in the front, and adjacent on the southerly side, 100 feet off of the property line, will have concrete stanchions spaced out just to allow some snow plowing if necessary.
Okay.
If global warming keeps helping us and the milder winters, maybe we won't even have use for that, but there won't be any illegal parking in that area.
One last item, this is more of a comment than a question, because in looking at the site plan, it doesn't really delineate it. And I'm assuming when you go to site plan for a waiver, they're probably going to ask for a site plan that illustrates it. Drive aisles on the property to get from one designated area to another. There's plenty of outdoor storage, there's plenty of parking for the trucking station, but I don't see any designated drive aisles. So that's just something you might want to keep in the back of your mind. If the board approves your application and you move forward to board a site plan review for the waiver, they're probably going to want to see that.
I thought we did, but it was one major one down the center of it. But now, are you saying we should have some that run perpendicular for?
Can I see that?
Yeah, I gave two individual site plans.
That probably is acceptable. I'm just looking at the back storage area because there's no defined drive aisles in the outdoor storage area. So they may want to see that.
That's a great suggestion, and since we plan on going before for site plan approval, I'll make certain that it's clear where the drive aisles are.
Okay. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, to ensure full compliance with our environmental review, we wish to consider information presented by the applicant and any comments from the public before making a recommendation, so no decision will be made tonight.
Will be made tonight or will not be?
Will not be made tonight,
Will not
sorry.
be made. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Board.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on the application? Nope. Doesn't look like it. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second?
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
Go and find the circuit breaker for that thing.
Oh, yeah. And that concludes the first portion of our hearing for tonight. The first case on the agenda tonight was case 19056, Michelle Garrett, and no action. Next case is case 19057, Gregory and Jean Truns.
Case 19057, Gregory and Jean Truns. I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Second?
Motion has been made to approve as presented. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried 4-0. Next case is case 19058, Thomas Assis. No action. Next case is case 19059, Robert DaCosta.
Case 19059, Robert DaCosta. I'll make a motion to approve. There were some comments in DEW's secret determination. I have no problem with the location of the shed. However, I do agree that its proximity to the property line could be impacting on a neighbor. And I'd like to approve it with the condition that type 2 plantings are planted along the side and rear property lines adjacent to the structure.
Adrian?
Second. Sorry.
Motion has been made with conditions. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion carried, 4-0. Next case is case 19061, Mary Sue Namas. That has been adjourned to March 12th. Next case is case 19062, George and Diane Forrester.
Case 19062, George and Diana Forrester. I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion has been made to approve as presented. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried, 4-0. Next case is case 19063, Corey Coachella.
Case 19063, Corey Crochilla. I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion has been made to approve as presented. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried, 4-0. Next case is case 19064, James Schneider.
Case 19064, James Schneider. I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion has been made to approve as presented. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried, 4-0. Next case is case 19065, Ralph Drews.
Case 19065, Ralph Drews. There was a comment in DEW's secret memo about DEC, or them needing DEC approval or a letter of non-jurisdiction.
Just recommending that they should contact
Okay,
DEC.
I was going to say that it's my opinion that that's a requirement that they would need in order to obtain a building permit.
I'm not certain. If they need it, then perhaps, we've type 2'd it. We're just recommending that they reach out to DEC to see if they need a permit from them.
So my question is, Blaze, maybe you know, if we make an approval, if DEC doesn't give them approval or a letter of non-jurisdiction, they just don't get a permit. It doesn't. Our approval of the variances has no bearing on DEC's process, correct?
It doesn't influence them.
It does?
It does not. The only thing I would say, and Sabrina might be able to answer this better than me, if the applicant doesn't contact DEC, then DEC isn't aware of the action. So they could get approval from you, but they may not have gotten a blanket approval from DEC unless they contacted them.
So in the interest of not filling up the back of our calendar any further, maybe we make an approval with the condition that they contact DEC for
Yeah, we've
either
already
approval or
typed
letter of
That
non-jurisdiction.
doesn't hold them up from getting a
Okay.
permit. So,
Okay, case 19065, Ralph Drews. I'll make a motion to approve with the condition that the applicant contact the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and request either a permit and obtain either a permit or letter of non-jurisdiction.
Second.
Motion has been made to approve with conditions. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried, 4-0. Next case is case 19066, Nicholas Montaloni.
Case 19066, Nicholas Monteleone. I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion has been made to approve as presented. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried, 4-0. Next case is case 19060, Boulder Smithtown Properties LLC. That has been adjourned to April 9th. And the next case is case 19067, FB4 Realty LLC and GMF LLC. No action. Now on the back of the, excuse me, the back of the, nothing?
that, no. I do have something that I do
Okay.
need to speak to all of you about.
All right, so that's,
The executive session?
No, that's not.
that's the end, right?
That's the end of that.
Okay.
Yes.
And that concludes our hearing for tonight.